All right, everyone get ready because today we're diving deep into a really amazing place.
The Italian Dolomites.
Yep, we're talking about planning out the perfect trip for 10 days in these incredible mountains.
And trust me, it's a trip worth planning for. The Dolomites are truly something special.
So, for our listeners who haven't been, what makes this region so unique?
Well, for starters, you've got this amazing mix of cultures. You'll find Italian, Austrian, and even Latin influences all throughout the region.
Latin. Now, that's not a culture you hear about every day.
Right, it's this really ancient culture, like way back, that's unique to the Dolomites. They even have their own language.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, so let's say we've got 10 days to spend in the Dolomites. Where do we even start?
Okay, so first things first, Bolzano. It's the capital of South Tyrol and the perfect starting point for your adventure.
Bolzano. Got it. What's in Bolzano?
Well, it's got this great blend of history and modern life. I mean, you've got charming squares, historic buildings, and a really energetic atmosphere.
Sounds lovely. Any must-sees while we're there?
Oh, absolutely. Walter Square is the heart of the city. Great spot to just hang out, people watch, or grab a coffee.
I do love a good piazza, especially for people watching.
And for all you history buffs out there, check out the South Tyrolean Archaeological Museum. That's where you can see Ötzi the Iceman.
Hold on. Did you say Ötzi the Iceman? Like the actual mummy?
Uh-huh. It's a remarkably well-preserved mummy from, like, the Copper Age. It's an incredible exhibit. You don't want to miss it.
Okay, I'm adding that to the list right now. Now, are we talking about castles too? Because Italy's got to have castles.
Oh, does it ever? Just outside Bolzano, perched up on the hillsides, you'll find Castel Roncolo and Castel Firmiano. The views from these castles overlooking the valley, they're just breathtaking.
You had me at castle. All right, so we've explored Bolzano. What's next on our Dolomites adventure?
Okay, next stop is Cortina d'Ampezzo, known for its elegant vibe and stunning mountain scenery.
Cortina? Isn't that where all the celebrities hang out?
You might spot a famous face or two. But even without the glamour, Cortina is just gorgeous, surrounded by incredible natural beauty.
Okay, so what should we do while we're in Cortina?
The Trecime di Lavaredo, those three iconic peaks, you absolutely can't miss those.
Yeah, the Trecime di Lavaredo, I've seen pictures. They're stunning.
Pictures don't do them justice, trust me. There's an amazing hike, about 3 to 4 hours, that takes you around all three peaks.
Now that's a hike I can get behind. What if you're not much of a hiker?
No worries, you can take a scenic drive and enjoy the views that way too.
Options are always good. Okay, so after 2 days in Cortina, where are we off to next?
We're heading to the Alta Badia region.
Alta Badia. What's that like?
Think lush meadows, those towering limestone peaks, and charming villages. Everything you picture when you think of the Dolomites. It's also where you'll find the Fansens Nature Park.
Okay, I'm picturing it, and it sounds incredible. What should we check out in Alta Badia?
The nature park is a must-do, of course. Hiking, biking, all sorts of trails, and don't miss the villages of Corvara and La Villa.
What's so special about these villages?
They have this quintessential Dolomite charm, cobblestone streets, those cute wooden houses with all the flowers, and that really warm atmosphere.
You're making me want to hop on a plane right now. All right, so we've done Bolzano, Cortina, and Alta Badia. Where to next?
Next, we're off to Val Gardena, known for its wood carving and, of course, the views.
Val Gardena. That name sounds magical. What's waiting for us there?
Well, there are actually 3 charming villages in Val Gardena: Ordise, St. Ulrich, and St. Christina.
Ooh, 3 villages in one valley. Tell me more.
Each village has its own unique character, so it's worth exploring them all.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Let's start with Ordise. What's it like?
Ordise is really pedestrian-friendly, has a great town center, and a cable car that goes up to Alpe di Susi.
Wait, is that Alpe di Susi the largest high-altitude plateau in Europe?
That's the one. You're talking fields of wildflowers and those majestic Dolomite peaks all around. You can hike, bike, whatever you like up there.
Wow. Okay, I'm sold. Now, what about St. Ulrich and St. Christina?
St. Ulrich is bustling with shops and restaurants. Great place to experience the local culture and maybe grab a souvenir or two.
Souvenirs are a must. What about St. Christina?
From St. Christina, there's a cable car up to Sisita. That's where you'll see those really dramatic, jagged peaks.
Okay, cable car ride to Sisita. Got it. That sounds amazing. All right, so we've covered a lot of ground. Where are we headed next?
Next up is a spot that's almost surreal in its beauty, Lake Braise.
Lake Braise. I think I've seen photos of it. The water's this incredible emerald green.
Exactly. It's nestled among these towering peaks. They call it the Pearl of the Dolomites, and honestly, it really is.
Okay, I'm sold. What's there to do at Lake Braise?
You can hike around it. It's a pretty easy trail, only takes about an hour and a half. Or if you want, you can rent a rowboat and explore the lake that way.
Rowing on a lake surrounded by the Dolomites? That sounds amazing. So after Lake Braze, what's next?
We'll make a stop at the town of Dobiaco.
Dobiaco. Tell me about it.
It's got a charming historical center, and it's really close to, you guessed it, the Trecime di Lavaredo.
Of course. No such thing as too much of those iconic peaks.
Exactly. So you can explore the town, revisit the peaks, and just soak in the atmosphere.
Okay, now after Dobiaco, we still have a few more days left in the Dolomites. Where are we going next?
We're venturing into the heart of the Sesto Dolomites.
Sesto Dolomites. Okay, that sounds exciting. What awaits us there?
Well, the Sesto Dolomites Nature Park has a ton of trails for all levels of hikers, from easy walks to multi-day treks. One of the most popular spots is the Fiscalina Valley.
Ooh, a valley. What's special about the Fiscalina Valley?
Picture lush meadows, cascading waterfalls, and those towering peaks all in one place.
Now you're speaking my language. Waterfalls are amazing, and I bet they're even more spectacular when surrounded by mountains.
Oh, for sure. And if you're feeling really adventurous, you can attempt the 3 Peaks of Lavaredo climb.
Maybe not that adventurous, but the valley sounds amazing. So after we've conquered the Sesto Dolomites, is it time to head back?
Yep. For the last couple days of our trip, we'll head back to Bolzano.
That makes sense. It'll be great to see Bolzano again and revisit any of our favorite spots.
Exactly. Plus, it's a chance to unwind a bit after all that exploring.
Now, before we move on, we can't talk about Italy without talking about the food. What are some must-try dishes in the Dolomites?
Oh, you are absolutely right. You have to try the polenta. It's a classic dish in this region.
What is polenta exactly?
It's like a creamy cornmeal porridge. You can have it with cheese, mushrooms, game meat, all sorts of things.
That sounds really good. Anything else we should try?
Another local specialty is canedjoli. They're like large bread dumplings, and they can be served in broth with melted butter or as a side dish.
Canedjoli, got it. So we've got polenta, canedjoli. What about drinks? What should we be drinking in the Dolomites?
You can't go wrong with some local wine. The Dolomites have some really great vineyards.
Okay, now you're speaking my language again. What kind of wines can we expect?
You'll find some crisp whites,
Yeah.
like Pinot Grigio and Gewürztraminer, and also some great reds like Lagrange.
Okay, I'm adding all of this to my list. So we've planned our 10-day Dolomites adventure. We started in Bolzano, made our way through Cortina, Alta Badia, Val Gardena, even visited Lake Braze and Dobiaco, explored the Sesto Dolomites, and now we're back in Bolzano.
That's quite the itinerary.
It is, and it's packed full of amazing things to see and do, and of course eat and drink. But we're just getting started with our Dolomites deep dive. Stick with us, and in part 2, we'll cover all the practical stuff, how to get around, where to stay, and all those essential travel tips that'll help you plan your trip. Welcome back to our Dolomites deep dive. In part 1, we put together a pretty epic 10-day itinerary, right?
We did. It's going to be an amazing trip.
But an itinerary is only good if you can actually, get there and make it happen.
That's where the logistics come in.
All right, so let's talk logistics. How do we even get to the Dolomites?
Well, you've got options. Flying's probably the most common.
Makes sense. So which airports should we be looking at?
Venice Marco Polo is a good one. Lots of international flights and well-connected.
Venice, okay. And from Venice, how do you get to the Dolomites?
You can rent a car or there are trains. Either way, it's pretty easy.
Good to know. Are there any other airports we could consider?
Innsbruck Airport in Austria is another option. It's closer to some parts of the Dolomites, might be more convenient depending on where you're going.
Innsbruck, okay, got it. What about Treviso Airport? I've heard that one mentioned for the Dolomites too.
Yeah, Treviso's a smaller airport near Venice. Might have some more budget-friendly flight options.
Budget-friendly is always good.
Yeah.
Now, what about train travel? Can you get to the Dolomites by train?
Absolutely. Italy's got a great train system. You can get direct trains from big cities like Rome, Milan, Florence, right to Bolzano.
And Bolzano's our starting point, right?
Yep. Plus, train travel's a nice way to see the countryside.
I do love a scenic train ride. Now, once we're in the Dolomites, how do we get around? Is a car necessary?
That's a good question, and it really depends on your style, how you like to travel.
Okay, so what are the pros and cons? Car versus no car.
Well, a car gives you freedom. You can go where you want, when you want, stop for those amazing views,
Yeah, that spontaneity is great.
But you also have to deal with mountain roads, which can be tricky, and parking can be a pain, especially in the busy season.
Makes sense. So if you don't have a car, what are the other options?
The Dolomites actually have a pretty good public transportation system, buses and trains that can get you to most of the main spots.
So you're saying we don't need a car?
Not necessarily. If you're happy to stick to a bit more of a schedule and maybe not venture too far off the beaten path, public transport will do the trick.
That's good to know. It's always nice to have options. All right, so now let's talk about accommodations. What are our choices in the Dolomites?
You've got everything from like luxury hotels to charming guest houses, cozy B&Bs, even mountain huts.
Mountain huts. Those sound intriguing.
They are. They're basically like basic accommodations up in the mountains, usually pretty cozy, incredible views, and a real chance to get away from it all.
I can just imagine waking up in a mountain hut, surrounded by those peaks. Now, how do you get to these huts? Can anyone stay in them?
Most of them you hike to, so you need a decent level of fitness, but you don't have to be like an expert climber or anything.
Okay, good, because I'm no expert climber. Now, back to the other accommodation options. What should we consider when choosing where to stay?
Budget's obviously a big one. Luxury hotels are going to be the priciest. Guest houses and B&Bs tend to be more mid-range.
Right, and location's got to be important too.
Definitely. Think about what you want to be close to, hiking trails, town centers, those kinds of things.
Good point. So, what are some other practical tips for planning a Dolomites trip?
The weather in the mountains can be unpredictable, so pack layers, be prepared for anything.
Yeah, I've definitely learned that lesson the hard way before. What about hiking safety? Any tips there?
Always stick to the marked trails. Tell someone where you're going and when you expect to be back.
Smart. Safety first. Now, what about the language? I know you mentioned Latin, but is Italian widely spoken in the Dolomites?
Yeah, Italian's the official language, but you will hear German and Latin too. And in most tourist areas, you'll be fine with English.
Good to know. I'm not exactly fluent in Italian or German. What about currency?
Euro, of course, and most places take cards, but it's always good to have some cash on hand just in case.
Okay, these are all such helpful tips. Anything else we should keep in mind?
Just remember to be respectful, of the environment and the local culture. The Dolomites are a special place. It's important to travel responsibly so that everyone can enjoy them.
Absolutely. Leave no trace. Right. Okay, so we've got transportation, accommodations, practical tips. I think we're well on our way to planning our Dolomites adventure.
We are, but there's still more to explore.
Right. Stick with us for part 3 of our Dolomites deep dive, where we'll dive into what makes this region so special. The culture, the history, the experiences that create those lifelong memories. Welcome back to our Dolomites deep dive. We've covered the itinerary, we've talked logistics, and now it's time to really dive into what makes this region so special.
It's the culture and the history, the things that stay with you long after you've left.
Exactly. And you've mentioned this blend of cultures a few times, Italian, Austrian, even Latin.
Right. It's this really unique mix that you don't find anywhere else.
Now you've piqued my curiosity about the Latin people. Can you tell us a little more about them?
So the Latin people, they're an ancient culture indigenous to the Dolomites.
Wow, indigenous to the Dolomites. That's incredible.
They have their own language, Latin, which is rooted in Latin, and they've really held on to their traditions.
It's amazing how these traditions have survived for centuries, surrounded by these incredible mountains.
Right. It's a really special part of the Dolomites story. And as a visitor, there are some great ways to experience the Latin culture.
Okay, I'm all ears. How do we do that?
You can visit the Latin Museum in San Martino in Badia. They have a great collection of artifacts and exhibits.
A museum? Great. What else?
Look out for Latin festivals and events. There's one, the Latin Carnival, happens in February. It's quite the spectacle.
A carnival. Now that's something I'd love to see.
You'll see traditional costumes, music, dancing, the whole works.
Sounds amazing. So we've got museums, carnivals, anything else?
Well, throughout the year, you'll find smaller local festivals celebrating Latin food, crafts, all sorts of things.
So really just keep an eye out and immerse yourself in those local experiences.
Exactly. And don't forget about the Italian and Austrian influences, too. They're everywhere.
Right. Like what specifically?
The architecture, for one. Lots of towns have that Austrian feel, those cute chalets, the cobblestone streets.
Ah, yes, the quintessential European charm.
And the food. It's this amazing fusion of Italian and Austrian flavors, the best of both worlds.
You keep mentioning the food. Can you give me some examples?
Well, we've talked about polenta and canderly, but there's also goulash, apple strudel, all sorts of hearty dishes.
And of course, we can't forget about the wine.
You know it. The Dolomites have some excellent vineyards. Definitely sample some local wines while you're there.
Any recommendations?
Pinot Grigio, Gewürztraminer for the whites, Lagrein for the reds. They're all fantastic.
Okay, I'm taking notes.
Yeah.
So you've got culture covered. What about the history of the Dolomites? What are some of the key moments or periods that have shaped this region?
Well, the history goes way back, to Roman times even. But one period that really stands out is World War I.
World War I, really? How so?
The Dolomites were actually a battleground between Italy and Austria-Hungary. Some pretty intense fighting happened here.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Are there any places we can visit to learn more about that?
Absolutely. The open-air museum in Lagazoy is incredible.
What's special about this museum?
It's actually up in the mountains, accessible by cable car. You can walk through preserved trenches and tunnels from the war, really get a sense of what it was like.
That sounds like a really powerful experience. Are there any other historical sites we should check out?
The Messner Mountain Museum is another one. Actually, it's a series of museums, all founded by the famous mountaineer, Reinhold Messner.
Reinhold Messner, I've heard of him. And these museums focus on what?
All things mountains, from the history of mountaineering to the unique geology of the Dolomites.
Okay, so lots of history to explore. Now, of course, we can't forget about the mountains themselves. What are some must-do activities for nature lovers and adventurers?
Hiking is an absolute must. There are trails for every level, from easy walks to serious climbs, and the views are, well, you just have to see them to believe them.
I can only imagine. But for those of us who maybe aren't up for hardcore hiking, are there other ways to enjoy the mountains?
Oh, tons. There are cable cars and chairlifts that'll take you to some stunning viewpoints.
Ah, so you can still enjoy the scenery without breaking a sweat.
Exactly. And you can explore the region by bike, too. There are dedicated bike paths and mountain biking trails.
So hiking, biking, cable cars, what else?
For the thrill seekers, there's Via Ferrata, which is like a protected climbing route, fixed cables, ladders, all built into the rock face.
Wow, Via Ferrata, that sounds intense.
Yeah.
Anything else unique to the Dolomites that we should try?
In the winter, the Dolomites become a winter wonderland. Skiing, snowboarding, snowshoeing, it's all there. And year-round, there's rock climbing, paragliding, even ice climbing.
It sounds like there really is something for everyone in the Dolomites, no matter what you're into.
That's the beauty of it. There's something for everyone.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in our Dolomites deep dive, from the perfect 10-day itinerary to the practicalities of planning your trip and all the incredible experiences that await.
It's been a journey, and hopefully we've inspired some listeners to start planning their own Dolomites adventure.
That's what we do. So as we wrap up, I want to thank you for sharing your expertise and insights with us. You've really brought this region to life.
My pleasure. I'm always happy to talk about the Dolomites.
And to everyone listening, we hope this deep dive has given you a taste of what the Dolomites have to offer. It's a region that's rich in culture, history, and natural beauty, and it's waiting for you to explore it. Happy travels, everyone.